Now, the other story that I wanted to talk to you about, and I realise I'm running out of time, is the Thomas Dunn arrest. I just want to make you watch this video. It's not very long. And get a flavour of what happened. Does everyone remember this video, by the way, where this guy was arrested?
Yeah,
for what he had posted on Facebook, and they were quizzing him about it. So the thought police. Yes, exactly. So let's have a watch, because this is an interview with the actual man himself.
Communications network.
What? My name's Thomas Dunn. I'm 64 years old and disabled. I'm a victim of Keir Starmer's two-tier policing. I've been a victim of two-tier policing for 7 years now, and because they can't put me in prison, they try to have me sectioned instead. They turn up with a mental health team, 3 doctors trying to have me sectioned, just to try and shut down my freedom of speech. And this is where our country is now. Everyone's now afraid to even put a like on a Facebook post. They're afraid they might lose their job. They're afraid of what people might think. They're afraid of being called racist. This is all being used against us. And this is how it's being used against us. And if we don't stop, if this doesn't stop soon, it's going to be too late. Our country's going to be gone. Our country, as we know it, will be gone. It won't exist like we grew up in. It's gone.
Okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, it's a Facebook crime, is it?
Okay.
Right.
So we need to ask you some questions about that.
No.
So, yeah, you can watch the full video from Turning Point UK if anyone is so inclined. But that's Thomas Dunn there. And he's arrested for making comments about Islam on Facebook.
right.
He was also arrested in the past for wearing a burqa. Hang on, Eunice. Is a burqa the one with the
full.
Yeah. That's the yeah.
That he had that
basically
on.
Batman, yeah.
And he was arrested for wearing it, right? And he says the police helicopters turned up and everything because he was going into banks wearing it to make a point. Which, I mean, you say what you want about that, but it's quite funny. So they post an actual screenshot from one of the articles on when he was arrested. Maybe it's not in this post. Anyway, there it is. That's him. So anyway, armed police stopped man who changed into a burqa in Debenhams. So he was making a point saying, like he says it's not compatible with life here in Britain. I mean, Eunice, do you think someone should go to prison and be arrested, harassed by the police, told that they ought to be sectioned for making comments like this, whether it be online or in day-to-day life?
Now, this is the perfect example of two-tier policing, because I actually gave a speech for Turning Point UK outside number 10, and actually Tommy Robinson shared that speech, and this is like probably 6 months ago now, and he probably got 500,000 views, and my speech was actually about Islam, and nobody came after me. And the reason is because I am Iranian, and I spoke against Islam in front of hundreds of people. It got hundreds of thousands of views, and people should check it out at Eunice Rocks on Instagram or X. It's there, but you have to scroll down. And it's just funny to me, no one came after me. Why? Because I'm Iranian. And imagine if a white person gave that speech. You'd probably be in jail right now. So again, this is an example of two-tier policing in this country. Certain people can say certain things, like women can criticize other women. People from an Islamic background can criticize Islam. But if you're white or if you're a man, then you're a sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, you name it. And it's just getting out of hand right now. So I think this is a perfect example of two-tier policing.
Yeah. I mean, Chloe, do you have sympathy for Thomas Dunn? Because, what he is posting is definitely considered quote-unquote controversial to the mainstream press, to the liberal media, and to members of parliament, the established politicians. So, but he has a right, surely, in a democratic society to make these points, to argue what he sees as an incompatibility with British life. I think he's ought to be perfectly able to make those arguments. I mean, for example, Chloe, on this very channel, you weren't here then, but David Starkey was on this channel and he made comments about Black Lives Matter. And we both faced arrest for that, right? For comments that he made. Broadcast. Free speech in Britain just doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. And I think it's going to definitely get worse before it gets better, if it ever gets better, because it's bad enough as it is now, people like this getting arrested for Facebook posts, but we haven't had these supposedly on the way Islamophobia laws put in place by Labour, which will mean that, probably if you criticise Islam at all, you're going to be thrown in Islam. I think it's a really interesting point Eunice makes about the fact that, he's one of the only people that can get away with criticising. Now, I haven't seen this guy's original Facebook post. I might vehemently disagree with what he has to say, and I might think that he's rude, or I might at least think, I definitely phrased that differently. That was a bit offensive. I don't know what it said. I'd have to see it. But regardless, even if I don't like it, and I think that what he said was awful, as long as it was not explicitly inciting violence, which is the only condition under which I think it's acceptable for the police to get involved. If he was posting saying, you guys should all go out on the street and attack Muslims or something like that, that would be explicitly inciting violence. But if it wasn't, doesn't matter how offensive it was, he should not be arrested for it. These are scary, scary times. And I think once you lose your free speech, it's pretty hard to get it back. It only goes in one direction. So where is
And Alex, it's perfectly all right to say that you want jihad and intifada on the streets, right? Which is, the massacre of Jews. It's all right to say that sort of thing. And if you post that on Facebook or Twitter, whatever else, you'll be absolutely fine. But, post arguments saying that Islam isn't compatible with British life, and you're fair game for either a mental institution or to be banged up by the coppers.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to a point in this country where freedom of speech is just completely frowned upon, and it's a really scary place to be, where you have to worry: can I say this? Can I use my voice and say this? Of course, what Chloe said there is right. There's never a case to incite people to be violent towards one another. That never solves any problems. It just makes everything worse. But you should be allowed to criticize Islam the same way that people are allowed to criticize Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism in this country. Why is Islam an exception? And with the new Islamophobia laws coming out, you'll see more and more people locked up for criticizing Islam, which is the scariest possible piece of legislation that could have ever gone through the House of Commons.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
And that's just going to make, because how do you define Islamophobia, right? Is any critical, would Eunice's piece, exactly, Labour can't do it. Angela Rayner stood up in the House of Commons and made a right tit out of herself. What's new there? But Eunice has done lots of, a couple of pieces for us on the Hadiths. Would he be criminalised? Would that speech be criminalised? Because Eunice is saying, let's look at the key tenets of Islam and let's look at what it actually says.
Yeah.
Is that, are you going to prison, Eunice?
No, but also look at the examples of countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Syria. Look what happens in those countries, and they try to follow Islamic law. And people say, oh, look, Dubai is a Muslim country. How comes Dubai is like? Yeah, because Dubai doesn't follow Sharia law. They made a conscious choice of moving away from Islamic law. Same with Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman. But when you see countries that are backwards, like Pakistan, Afghanistan, ISIS, Iraq, Boko Haram, they actually do follow the Quran and they do follow the Hadiths. And I just don't understand what doesn't get through in their thick skulls that, look, I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm sure 95% of Muslims are peaceful people. I have family members that are Muslim. But Islam as an ideology is a dangerous ideology, and you should be able to criticize it. Not all of it, but some parts of it. Maybe same with every other religion, but especially Islam, because it's a very militant religion and it should be questioned.
Well, Eunice, I'm afraid to say that this is the last live stream we're doing with you, because it's straight to jail. Don't pass go. Do not collect £200. You're off to prison. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk, and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.